Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. If you're visiting with us this morning, we're so happy that you've joined us. We'd love to get to know more about you after the worship service. So if you haven't already stopped by the newcomer table, please do so that we can add you to our e-list and invite you to the many different programs and events that we have happening here at UU Princeton. The next two are immediately after the worship service. We will have an open meeting discussion Q&A session in preparation for our annual meeting, which is happening next week after worship. So if you have questions about that, please go to the Murray Room after worship. And we also have a brunch after worship today. This one is sponsored by our music ministry. It's a good way to support that wonderful program in our congregation. Your contributions will help them hire soloists and musicians and buy sheet music and things like that. And you'll also eat a delicious brunch. Lots of vegan options are available, I hear, as well as delicious food. So all kinds of delicious food. So stay after worship. You can do the brunch, you can do the meeting, you can do both, make friends, and have a good time after worship today. Next Sunday is also a really big Sunday in our congregation. We do have our flower ceremony. This is one of our most treasured rituals of the year. We invite you to bring a flower with you to worship from your home or a garden or a field or the store or whichever you like, and we will randomly exchange them during the service next Sunday. If you have access to extra flowers, please bring those because we'll have guests and visitors who won't have any, and that way we'll have enough flowers for everyone. And then after the worship service, we will have that annual meeting. We invite members to stay for that. And then after that, we have our annual spring picnic, which everyone is invited to. That'll happen right after the annual meeting. So plan on staying around for a while next Sunday. Great service, annual meeting, and a wonderful picnic as we kind of close out the church year for us. We go all year long, but that kind of feels like the end of the church year for us most years. And then in 2 weeks, there's a lot going on in the middle of the month as well. Princeton Pride is happening again, the Pride Parade on June 14th. That'll be the 5th annual Princeton Pride Parade. And as always, our congregation's Rainbow Ministry Group will be coordinating UU Princeton's representation in the Pride Parade. You can join with marchers starting at 10 a.m. that Saturday in the municipal driveway closest to the church, or there will be a Rainbow Ministry booth at the Pride Parade itself, which is in Paul Robeson Place. So that's where the festival part is. So keep an eye out for our booth and say hi to folks there, and contact rainbow@uprinceton.org if you'd like to be a part of that team. And also next on the Sunday, this is June 15th, we are pleased to welcome Caroline Curbelo, supervising attorney with the Latin American Legal Defense and Education Fund, also known as LAUDEF, who will lead us in a Know Your Rights workshop. That's on Sunday at 12:15, June 15th. Know Your Rights discusses the constitutional rights of individuals regardless of immigration status, particularly in times of increased community and individual interactions with ICE. It's a very timely and important workshop. We're really happy to be able to host this on June 15th after worship here at UU Princeton. And now, grateful for each and welcoming all, let us be together for this hour of peace and balance and breath. Let us pause to remember the good, to seek the true, and to witness again the diverse, creative beauty known best in beloved community. Come, let us worship together.
Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. James Baldwin.
Our prayer this morning is by the Reverend Barbara Peskin, a UU minister. It's her Memorial Day prayer. I invite you to join together in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, whom we have called by many names, in thanksgiving and in anguish, bless those who mourn. Send peace for the soldiers who did not make the wars, but whose lives were consumed by them. Let strong trees grow above graves far from home. Breathe through the arms of their branches. The earth will swallow your tears while the dead sing no more. Never again remember me. For the wounded ones and those who received them back, let there be someone ready when the memories come, when the scars pull, and the buried metal moves, and forgiveness for those of us who were not there for our ignorance. And in us, wanderers in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow on our stumps. Give us courage to answer the cry of humanity's pain with our bare hands, our full hearts, with all our intelligence. Let us create peace. And here in the silence, we offer these, the prayers and meditations of our hearts. And may the light of love ease every sorrow and illuminate every joy this day and always. Amen.
So, I have some empathy for everyday people who have become convinced that diversity, equity, and inclusion are, in fact, bad words. I'm not saying I agree with them, and I'm certainly not saying that I have any empathy for the racists in the White House who are lying about DEI in order to manipulate the narrative to effectuate their white supremacist agenda. But I do empathize with regular people who are uncomfortable with these words because I have been, and if I'm going to be totally honest, in some ways probably still am one of those people. I was raised internalizing the philosophy that racial harmony can only be achieved through colorblindness. Though I grew up very liberal in the San Francisco Bay Area, I internalized the idea that racism would end once everybody stopped dividing themselves by their racial identities and started treating each other the same, regardless of the color of their skin. And because I naively assumed that I treated everybody equally, and there was nothing problematic with my cultural understanding of right and wrong, that the bad word racist certainly did not apply to me. And I had no idea how completely wrong I was about this on so many levels. I didn't realize that my view of colorblindness was actually assimilationist. Because if I treated all people the same, then I would be treating people through my cultural lens, which I now understand is a white-centered lens of privilege, inherited from hundreds of years of white European subjugation of other people. I can empathize with some people who have negative feelings about DEI because I remember the feelings I had when phrases like white privilege and anti-racism started to enter into the zeitgeist. When I first engaged with these ideas, they felt like bad words to me because they challenged my worldview and they made me feel defensive. Like many well-meaning white people, especially liberals who see themselves as allies to communities of color like I did, I had to wrestle with my own identity, admitting to myself how inadequate my way of understanding race really was. I give credit to Unitarian Universalism for holding me accountable to the work that I need to do personally to embrace anti-racism. It's not that easy for a middle-aged white guy like me to even hear the messaging of anti-racism in any consistent way. It is certainly not coming through social media for me. I will tell you that my YouTube algorithm is completely racist. Just recently, I searched how to be anti-racist in YouTube to prepare for this reflection. And the first couple videos were positive videos from Ibram X. Kendi. And then the next 20 videos were about things saying anti-racism was garbage and that Kendi himself was a fraud. And honestly, most of the media I consume has this tilt to it, whether I want it to or not. You know, it's most of what I consume in one way or another steers me toward messaging that diversity, equity, inclusion, privilege, anti-racism are in fact bad words. You know, and I'm just talking about racism this morning, but this applies to so many other words in the current culture like trans and feminist and socialist that we're being told are bad words. In my everyday life, some of the only reminders I actually get to think about anti-racism come from Unitarian Universalist sources. Even the Unitarian Universalist Animal Ministry engages with anti-racism. Their website has a tab labeled What We Do, and one of the first links is Ending Racism. And as a vegan activist, when I first saw that, I had another one of those negative gut level instant reactions saying, do we really have to talk about race right now when we're trying to advocate for animals? Yet the UU Animal Ministry tells me that any movement that does not also center anti-racism will likely be dominated by white male voices and will likely contribute to the racist status quo. I appreciate the UU Animal Ministry for reminding me that my animal advocacy must also not forget to be anti-racist. Not only does Unitarian Universalism call me to voice these words that the current culture is labeling as bad, but I think more importantly, it calls me to keep listening to these bad words. I need to face what makes me uncomfortable. I need to face my complacency, and I need to face my complicity in the racial status quo. As James Baldwin once wrote, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Thank you.
We should thank the whole choir, of course, but really Joelle Piercy is who we should thank for that choir. Thank you, Joelle. It's great. Our reading this morning is a poem titled Languages by Carl Sandburg. Languages. There are no handles upon a language whereby men take hold of it and mark it with signs for its remembrance. It is a river, this language, once in 1,000 years, breaking a new course, changing its way to the ocean. It is mountain effluvia, moving to valleys and from nation to nation, crossing borders and mixing. Languages die like rivers, words wrapped round your tongue today and broken to shape of thought between your teeth and lips, speaking now and today, shall be faded hieroglyphics 10,000 years from now. Sing. And singing, remember, your song dies and changes and is not here tomorrow any more than the wind blowing 10,000 years ago. And for the sermon. One of my favorite scenes in the movie A Christmas Story is the one in which the child star of the film says a bad word. He says a very bad word. In his mind, he says the worst word. He's of grade school age and he has stepped outside to help his father change a flat tire on a cold December night. He's holding the lug nuts for his dad, who is racing through the tire change as though he's on the pit team of a car in the Daytona 500. The father wants to beat his previous fastest time of changing a tire. Apparently, his tires blow out often enough for him to have a fastest time. And in the process of making the repair, the father suddenly turns toward Ralphie, knocks the lug nuts out of his hand, and before he can catch himself, Ralphie utters the extreme expletive. I'm not going to say it. Although you've probably heard it, perhaps uttered it, perhaps shouted it, perhaps felt a certain joy at times shouting it. Sometimes voicing a good expletive can be kind of refreshing, clarifying, and then you just move on. Just imagine that one that when you were in 4th or 5th grade, you really weren't supposed to say. That's the one Ralphie said. That scene follows with one in which Ralphie is standing before his mother with a bar of soap in his mouth. He's getting his mouth washed out with soap. Ah, the memories. I've been there and survived, and Ralphie does too. But during the inquisition of his mother, when she asks where he even heard that word from, Ralphie lies. He acknowledges in his interior monologue, which we hear throughout the movie, that he's heard his father say that word countless times. But in the moment, he says he heard it from a friend. His mom immediately goes to call that friend's mother, tells her the word that Ralphie said. You can hear the mom freak out on the phone. She asks the other mom if she knew where Ralphie heard that word from. The other mother says, well, he heard it from his dad. But Ralphie's mom says, no, he heard it from her son. And then her son gets in trouble. Again, you can hear it over the phone. And the story moves on, but not before Ralphie's mom herself taste tests the bar of soap and finds it to be disgusting. And indeed, it is disgusting. That word was a bad word then and remains a bad word today, although that movie was made in the 80s and set in 1939, which may be why they had to change tires so often. The word is still bad, but nowhere near as bad as it used to be. It's common in the music my kids listen to, almost kind of expected at this point. My kids had heard it earlier than that on the soundtrack to Hamilton, which was played on repeat for a while in our homes and vehicles. And while I've never sought to expose them to it, I also haven't really worried about them being exposed to it. They'll hear it a lot, and it has a lot of different meanings, and context matters, and artistic intent, and all that stuff. There are times to not say that word, but that word itself is not to never be said, in my mind anyway. Just don't say it around your grandparents is my rule, ever. Although even that these days, I think is more about my sensibilities than theirs. I think they might find it funny. But one day you're going to slam your toe on a chair leg in the middle of the night, and then you know if it helps to let it rip, just let it rip. Language works like that. Meanings shift over time and meaning is contested. Power battles are frequently waged with words as the ammunition. Whoever controls the meaning determines the dialogue. And one way to assure that a contest is not lost is to continually refute and refine definitions so that those in battle are never really talking about the same thing. A word that is acceptable today is not acceptable tomorrow, and tomorrow's ho-hum expressions may be today's verboten utterances. Unlike Ralphie's utterance, which was always more or less a bad word, yesterday's good words become today's bad words. Like politically, in this day, diversity, equity, inclusion, and often added to the trio is justice. Artists bridge these worlds well. They speak the unspeakable at times at cost, but the good ones speak them anyway, even when we don't like to hear them. Academics, too, bridge them, though the language can be impenetrable and the roots sometimes quite indirect. The intent to understand, explain, and welcome is there, though, and they form the minds that will form the politics and marketplaces of today and tomorrow. They form and organize the power, which is why those who would move the country away from the values of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice are demanding the dropping of that language in the academy. Sometimes that demand comes in the form of dropping funding for these programs, as we've seen. Sometimes it comes from state houses legislating the dismantling of those university offices and initiatives, as we've seen. Sometimes it comes from very high offices who target particular institutions, intent to strike fear in other institutions over what may result from non-compliance, as we are seeing. This even drifts down to the local level, to the school board level, as this federal government becomes more and more restrictive about what states may do with their funds. These censorious, un-American demands to not voice the values of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice are sounded with anger and with desperate alarm. They expect absolute compliance, and their chorus, I think, has yet to peak. And yet the values are American in their pursuit, in their unrealized expression, but movement in that direction in our common life and shared destiny. They are American in their increasing realization and also in their unrealized urgency. Once they are not sought, the experiment of America is over, for the unrealized values of the founding of this nation would no longer be the North Star guiding it, guiding us toward greater freedom and equality for greater and greater numbers of people. Instead, the night would only be dark with the whiny anger of despots tearing us from one another in greed and fear, making us see one another only in shadows, never in the holy light of beloved community. The great writer Toni Morrison spoke about this in her 1993 Nobel Prize acceptance speech. She won it for literature, speaking about what she called statist language, or language of a particularly restrictive and oppressive state. She remarked, "It is censored and censoring, ruthless in its policing duties. It has no desire or purpose other than maintaining the free range of its own narcotic narcissism, its own exclusivity and dominance. However more abound, it is not without affect, for it actively thwarts the intellect, stalls conscience, suppresses human potential. Unreceptive to interrogation, it cannot form or tolerate new ideas, shape other thoughts, tell another story, fill baffling silences. Official language smithered to sanction ignorance and preserve privilege is a suit of armor polished to a shocking glitter, a husk from which the night departed long ago, yet there it is, dumb, predatory, sentimental, exciting reverence in school children, providing shelter for despots, summoning false memories of stability, harmony among the public. She wrote that in 1993. Morrison's ending in the speech, though, imagines people coming together to care for and tend to one another, to care for and tend to the future. She's worked with an old story throughout her speech in which some kids tried to trick an old wise person into being wrong, and in the process, they might kill a bird to do so. It's a story that the great civil rights leader Fannie Lou Hamer used to tell all the time. I've told it from the pulpit, too. It's a kind of parable that should be repeated. The kids hold this bird in their hands, completely covered up, and they ask the wise one if the bird is dead or alive. And if the wise one says dead, they will open their hands and let the bird fly away. And if the wise one says alive, they will crush the bird. They're just trying to win a power battle with the wise person, even if it costs the life of the bird. And Fannie Lou Hamer used to end the story in the 50s with the wise one saying, "Is it alive or is it dead? It's in your hands." She used that story to urge us to build a future of freedom and life and kindness for more people. Morrison, one of the greatest writers in the history of this country, treats it with the mind-blowingly endless depth of an expert storyteller, and she builds this whole new, beautiful narrative around the kids who become the teachers and the wise one who continues to be wise, and it ends up being this powerful human tale, not just about birds, but about everything good and true and hopeful, all in a 30-minute speech, which you can listen to online in her voice, and which she ends with the wise one telling the kids who have imagined something larger and much more beautiful than a bird, saying, finally, the wise one says, "I trust you now. I trust you with the bird that is not in your hands because you have truly caught it. How lovely it is, this thing we have done together," which is our cue, one that reminds us to imagine the future that we can build together, one that holds greater peace and opportunity and equality for more and more people. For us, this human endeavor has the holy urging of a faith that believes that we are all equal in creation and all equal before whatever we consider to be the holy. Further, we are all one in birth and death and live most ethically and kindly when we try to live as one during our lives. We are one, though we lead different lives, and we are equal, though opportunities are not. And thus, for us, the work of our faith is to build a world where diversity is not a barrier to equality, but a bridge to it, and where our differences do not divide us, but bring us all together. For we are one, under the sun, in holy light, beaming with the creative flame that makes us who we are, and able to marvel upon the flames that make others who they are. And we know that one day our flame will die down and become embers and go out and return to the earth. We believe that the same will happen for everyone, though we have different ideas on the unknowable results that come from those very knowable deaths. What we know is that the flame started the same way, of the same forces, of the same cause, in the same original blessing, and it will end in the same way. And during that space in between our lives, we live in one another's interest. For us, it is holy to build a world of more diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice for all, for that is a reflection of the world in which all humans can flourish in lives of peace and plenty. There are, of course, different ideas on how to build that world. We don't all agree on how to do it here, nor should we expect to, but that vision is shared, for it is how we serve that great force of love through which we live. We serve that source of love always by serving the world with love. As this surge in hostility toward the values that guides us runs its course, we can also know two more things. One is that it's only because our values do, in fact, speak to people that they are being attacked. If they weren't powerful and attractive, we wouldn't have half the cabinet and half the state houses obsessed with misrepresenting and attacking them. The backlash is to the success that has been built by people like us over centuries who have steadily moved the country in the direction of justice and compassion. That work is not done and may never be done, but it is inaccurate and ungenerous to deny that many over the centuries have suffered greatly to put our country in a position where people with great power who could do many different things, choose to spend quite a bit of it complaining about higher education diversity initiatives, especially as many of them have relied on degrees from those institutions to attain the power and privilege that they have. Their emphasis will make no one's life better, and if that's argued well, this surge will be abandoned and eventually disowned by many who are fundraising off of it today. And we know one more thing, that language is powerful and can be subversive, and that as those words become controversial, we have two paths. Use other words to get at the same thing, which will sometimes make sense. Sometimes that is the right thing to do. If we're using words that are not communicating to people, then we can use different ones. That's our job. Our allegiance should not be to the terms, but to the values. And plenty of words can relay the importance of anti-racism, of equal opportunity, of fairness, of building the beloved community. And another path is to stand up straight and to square our shoulders and use the words we want to use, to say aloud in various settings that diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice make our country better. They serve our children well. They've built a brighter, more hopeful future, and they'll continue doing so because we're going to keep at it, whether those ruffle opportunistic feathers or not. We can use different words, or we can use the same words, each approach probably appropriate at different times. And in our faith, we can speak publicly of how these are sacred values that we serve and enliven because we praise and show gratitude for the grace that gives us not only our lives, but one another. The grace that is life is not just for us, but it's for my sibling and my parent and the ancestors and all the generations to come. It's for my kind neighbor who votes just like I do, and it's for my kind neighbor who does not. It's a grace bigger than all of us, alive in each of us. And the only way to really show gratitude for the gift, for that gift, is to live in each other's interests, to build a world as best we can in which everyone has a path toward peace and plenty, to build a country ever moving in the direction of its original values, to live an ethical life which never stops with the self and always considers the neighbor, the stranger, those with much and those with little, and always chooses to help whenever we can. May our words continue to seed our values in hearts and minds, and moreover, may our deeds continue to provide strength and hope during these stormy days. May they honor the successes that have caused today's backlash, and may they guide us all to a future of more diversity, more equity, more inclusion, and more justice, and especially more love for all. May it be so, and amen.
And at the end of our hour,
We extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light carries us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always, and always with everyone else, by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.